Mm-hmm.
Yes. So let me introduce my special guest. I really look forward for this since a long time. I think before I applied for your coaching, I sent to you already a podcast request. It's a long time
Very
ago.
good.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
really appreciate my coach Samantha on my podcast. And yeah, Samantha, which are 5 things everyone should know about you? Let's start with this, the hardest
This is
question.
you sent me these questions, right? And I was like, these questions are a lot. I'm like, Maya does not BS around with her questions either, just like she doesn't do with her training. 5 things, that's a lot of things. One of them would be that I love when people tell me I can't do something because I love proving people wrong. It's like my favorite thing to do. So yeah, that's definitely something. Some people would say it's a little bit like, I don't know if you call it spiteful, but I definitely have it in me. I like when people think that I can't do something. It just makes me go harder. Second thing you need to know about me, I guess I'm a two-time Olympian. So I competed in figure Olympia 2 times, 2020 and 2022. That's another fact. Third fact, I'm Swedish. I'm actually half American, half Swedish. But I was born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden. I came to the US 3 years ago now. So I came here at the end of 2020, and I've been living here pretty much ever since. Um, but yeah, I came here with like, I don't know, maybe $200 or $300 in my bank account, with 2 suitcases and my dog. He's sleeping here right now. And I basically lived out of a hotel room for my first like 4 months in this country. So that's pretty cool. Fourth fact, God, that's hard. Yeah, besides training and things like that, I really like fashion. I really, really enjoy collecting sneakers. For those people that know me and watch, my videos and stuff, you see that I have a few pair of nice sneakers, and it's a big passion of mine. I really like my sneaks. Fifth, oh, a fifth thing. This is hard now. Fifth thing, yeah, I went to university for psychology and criminology. Um, Two topics that are also big interests of mine. I'm really specifically interested in psychology and how the brain works and how we, connect to ourselves and other people. And it's very fascinating to me, what we can do, simply with our brain, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are really surprising facts. I think if you just look or watch over your Instagram, it's about training. And I think what I see is a strong mindset. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is that's a really a thing why I came to you as a coach because you don't talk about that much, but I feel it when I see your subtitles, your quotes, or how you train. So that's really inspiring. Yeah. So why did you start it with bodybuilding? And you are like a long time in the game now. So what is the reason why they have you started?
Yeah, it's funny. People look at me as like being one of the goats in the industry now, but for me, I still feel very young. I think it's just because I started so early. I've been bodybuilding for a decade now. Started competing when I was 18. That's 9 years of competing and makes me feel really, really old when I say that. But so basically how I started, I went through a lot of stuff, like many people, when I was younger. And I have a lot of like childhood trauma that I really had to address, in my grown years. But at the time, the way that I dealt through it was with food and kind of suppressing my emotions with eating. So what ended up happening naturally was that I got to be pretty big. I was very overweight, and I was picked on a lot in school and stuff like that. People would talk behind my back. People would say the meanest things. Um, and it basically started when me and my family, when I was 17, we moved out from the city to the suburbs, and my group of friends just completely changed. And the people that I was hanging out with now then in the suburbs, they were all going to this gym, out there. And I had never been in a gym before the age of 17. And they were basically going every day. And so like me not going to the gym, I felt like I was kind of like out of the group a little bit. So they were like, "Well, you can come with us," and I was like, "Okay, cool," And at that time, I hated my body. I hated the way I looked. It was so depressing. And I would, I had the worst habits back then. I would, go for like a big bottle of it, like Coke, and we're talking like not Coke Zero, not Coke Light, like the sugar one. I would drink
The
one a
real
day.
cook.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would drink one a day and I would eat like a bag of chips because I love chips. Still an obsession of mine. I would eat a bag of chips a day. I was so unhealthy. Um, but basically like I started going to the gym with these girls and they showed me the ropes like the first exercises and then I kind of just progressed from there and I really fell in love with it just from the get-go. Like my first session training I was hooked. It was just I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's just like clear as day for to me, and it was a weird feeling. I never felt like that about anything before because I've been in a lot of sports, and for me, like, I danced for a long time as a dancer. I was a cheerleader for a long time. I love martial arts, which I'm also trying to get back to now. I tried a bunch of stuff, and I got really good at a lot of stuff. But there wasn't anything that really brought like my mentality out of me that I guess I always kind of had in me. Um, so I started training, and after a while, these girls kind of fell off, you know, and they had been talking about competing in bikini, and I was like, what? What's that? And then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, that's cool, But I was just training and training and training, and then they stopped going because they were dealing with, I know, guess teenage stuff. And I was very focused. I was like, I went by myself. I continued going, and I decided I was going to prepare for my first show, and they ended up being really mad at me because like I was skipping out on all the parties and I was skipping out on all the stuff. I was like, no, I'm gonna go to the gym and all this kind of stuff because I was very dedicated. I like went 100% in and went to train like twice a day. I did the craziest things and I would like power walk like 5 times a day. I was like super obsessive about it. Yeah, and that's how it all started. And then after when I did my first show after like a year of training, I had lost so much weight and put on so much muscle. And I was just 18, but I won my first show in bikini. And then I just kept competing in bikini for a long time. And yeah, then went to figure and that's how it started at least. Yeah,
Yeah, and you prepped yourself, right?
I did. I prepped
Yeah,
myself I prepped myself for a very long time actually.
yeah. I think that's so amazing. I mean, it takes so much effort to just train and follow a plan in bodybuilding, but to do it on your own in those hard weeks, it's crazy. And you came really far with that, right? Do you prep yourself
Yeah,
for the first Olympia show?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
did.
heard
So
that. Yeah.
I prepped myself all the way to the end of 2020. Um, actually 20 up until what is it, 2023 now. Last year, 2022 was actually the first year I actually worked with somebody. But before then, I prepped myself. So I won my pro card on my own, qualified for my first Olympia on my own, things like that. And I think the reason for why I'm able to do that is just for one, the experience that I have. Um, I have prepped other people. I also spent so many years obsessing. Like besides going to school, the only other thing that I did was like obsess over my physique. And I was just like looking at things and seeing the small changes. I'm just a very detailed person and I just catch on to the
Mhm.
smallest details. And you know this from working with me as well. It's like I see something and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is I can predict now what's going to happen. And then it happens and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it happened. I'm like, I told you it would.
Yeah.
So I just became very obsessed, I guess, with the details of everything. Um, and I would look at myself like constantly in the mirror. And it wasn't, you can think of it as like being like a slightly like narcissistic, like you're just like looking at yourself. But I was just like really interested, in how everything worked. And I
Mm.
would educate myself and I would watch podcasts and YouTube videos and then Instagram, was around. I was watching, some of the big influencers at the time there and females with muscle. And I was like, this is so cool. And I would try to learn as much as possible. And I think, you know, I found a way to be really subjective about my bodybuilding. When it comes to my physique, I am very subjective. I don't take things personal. That's why like when I've had certain shows and things haven't gone my way for several reasons, I've never been the person to be really offended. I can take a win, of course, but I can also take a loss and look at it like, okay, this is what I have to improve. I wasn't, the best I could be this time, or maybe I was, but I can be better, and then you always have something to work on. And I think that's also a big part of why I like bodybuilding so much. It's like you always have something to do, right? It's like always
Mm.
something you can work on, always something you can improve. So yeah, I ended up going to Spain. I got my pro card on my own. I was alone, no family, because during COVID, nobody could travel. And yeah, and then my first Olympic qualification, my pro debut, 2 days later on my own. Got my Olympic qualification, went to Olympia by myself. And that was a crazy experience too. Like I had no family or friends or anything at my first Olympia. I was literally like pulling my suitcases and stuff on my own, like sitting in my hotel room alone, like had
Yeah.
nobody. I FaceTime my best friend back in Sweden, like from Las Vegas in the morning before
Wow.
prejudging, but like that's literally all that I did. I was there by myself. It was a really hard experience, but
Yeah.
something that I definitely, look back at, I'm like, that's still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like complete underdog story, right? Out of the dark, out of the woods from
Absolutely.
Sweden,
Out of the
right?
woods from Sweden,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, crazy. Yeah, one thing which surprised me a lot about your coaching is really your eye on details, because here back in Germany, Austria, you have coaches where you have to fill out all the spreadsheets, right? Like everything, like you track
Yeah.
everything. And I always was like, no, I don't want to fill all the numbers. And you were like, yeah, check in is like just send me photos in your weight. And I was like, okay, where's the Google Sheet
Spreadsheet.
thing? Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah. And then you saw so many things, and it's crazy. It's really crazy. Your eye is it's amazing, and I think it comes from your personality and your
Yeah.
experience, right, with yourself. So that's I cannot imagine where your eyes in 10 years. Like you're like
Yeah. No,
scouting, just scouting people, like you are like
yeah.
yeah,
No, it's a lot of fun. I know that I don't really market my coaching like that, which I
yeah,
probably should, honestly. But
yeah.
it's a big passion of mine, and I think it's for me, also you as an athlete also specifically make it easier for me because I know that when you check in, you're following the plan that I sent you before. I know that you're doing exactly what I tell you. I know how dedicated you are, and I know that like I don't have to sit back and be like, oh, but did she maybe do this? Did she do that? Or did she, maybe follow her plan or she missed a meal? Like Maya doesn't miss. Like I know that. And the more accurate you are following your protocol, the more accurate I can be in, proceeding from that and updating your plans and making sure that, we're continuing to strive for the best, version of you. And I think that's also why you've been able to make such a big difference. It's so funny looking back at the picture starting with you because the first pictures you sent me, you were tiny and you were like, Sam, please help me. I want to do women's physique. And I was like, I remember looking at them. I was like, she's so cool, but she's tiny. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? And you're like, and I want to be natural too. And I'm like, Maya, you're giving me all the curveballs here. I'm like, how are we gonna do this? And I look back at those pictures, and it's funny comparing them to now because you're a lot bigger now than you were back then. And since then, obviously, we switched to bikini. I had to convince you. You first like you're like, oh, I can
Mm,
do figure, I guess. And then I had to move you
mm,
from figure to bikini. I'm like,
mm.
because
Yeah.
I saw your physique, and I'm like, okay, well, I know she's a bit smaller. She's a natural athlete, obviously, as well. And then I was like, I just see I even though you don't have the muscle, like I see your structure, and I'm like, she could do really well in bikini, Um, even back then, which you didn't have much glutes back then, and now you do. But even back then, I could just see it. I'm like, yeah, she'd be good in bikini, but it was a process of getting you to accept it,
Yeah.
And now I look at obviously at your check-ins now, and it's like it's interesting because now I can see like not only you, being winning a show, but I'm like, she could be a pro in bikini, which I think that's a really cool like process with you and a cool evolution with you, like how much you've grown since that time.
Yeah, it's just 1 year, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of our work because I mean, I completely trust you. I think that is also really important because if you don't, I couldn't see where I can go, right? Or where I could stand with my physique. But it's amazing, yeah. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward where we stand in 1 year.
I'm excited. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's been it's been a process with you, building the muscle and everything. But I think that one of the coolest things and something I respect a lot about you is like I've always watched your training videos and I see, the level of intent and intensity that you bring to your sessions. And I've told you this a bunch of times, but it reminds me a lot about the way that I train. So,
Hmm.
you train very, very hard. You train very, very intense and you try your absolute best, at all times. And I think that's super respectable. There's a lot of people that go in and they half-ass their workouts, and then they ask themselves, well, why am I not winning the show? Or like, why am I not gaining the muscle that I want to gain? Or things like that. Well, it's just simple, you're not putting in the work. And then you're
Yeah.
complaining about not getting the results. And I think for a lot of people, it does really come to not believing in themselves enough. So they're thinking like, well, I think it's a self-sabotage thing. I think for a lot of people, it's like they don't believe in themselves enough, and then they would rather go in and not give it their all. And then, they do a show and they don't place that well. And then they can tell themselves a story of like, oh, but like I didn't place that well, but it's not really that bad because like I could have trained harder. I could have been better. So it becomes like a self-explanation thing, like a self-protection thing, knowing it within yourself that like, well, it doesn't really matter if I placed that not that good because, I wasn't giving it my all anyway. What's actually hard to do is not winning a show, knowing that you gave it your all, and that's being vulnerable, right? So, you go to a show, you place dead last, but you really gave it your all, like you did your absolute best, and then somebody tells you still that that's not good enough. That's a bigger hit on the ego. So I think for people, they just self-sabotage to be able to, say to themselves and tell the story to themselves that it didn't really matter that much because, they know that they could have been better. And that's why they cheat on their plan. And that's why, they don't train as hard as they could to their capability because it's an ego thing and it's scary to give it your all and then have somebody tell you that you're not good enough per se,
Hmm.
by not winning a show. Um, so having full belief in yourself is super, super important. And I think it's a big part also why coaching is also so important because a lot of people don't have that within themselves just naturally to be like, I can do it or, tell themselves that they're the shit, and give it their all. So they need somebody to be able to kind of give them that support and show that somebody believes in you. So then if somebody else does it, then you're like, oh, well, maybe this person's right. If you respect that person and that person says so, then it must be true, right? So
Yeah.
then it boosts your mental as well. So there's like that mental perspective to it that I think is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So when I finished a set, every time I ask myself, like, is it really the end of my set, right? When I stand on the stage, can I look back and say I really went hard?
Yeah.
And I think it's a for me not acceptable thought to stand there and have in my mind like the set I didn't finish hard enough, right? Yeah, but it's totally aligned with yeah, self-trust and also a person who has trust in yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, the self-belief thing is such a vital part of not only bodybuilding but life, in general. And we all have times of like doubt. Like I've gone through it a million times, just like anybody else. I think that people look at my social media and they're like thinking that like I'm indestructible. And for the most part, my mental is very like bulletproof, but it's because I built it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I've been through so much in life that's just like knocked me down and knocked me down over and over again, but I always get back up. So like it's kind of also that confidence in knowing that like no matter what life throws at me, no matter what curveballs like I get in prep or in life or whatever, like I will always find a way to come back because that's just how I am. So it's also just about having complete faith in yourself that you're able to, you know, sustain any kind of situation under any given circumstances, you know. And if you're able to do that, you're also, you know, you know what you're capable of. But you have to have gone through some kind of resistance in life to kind of
Mm-hmm.
understand that to the full capacity. Like for me, my
Mm-hmm.
life was super turbulent for a long time and has been like partially, you know, throughout my entire life. Like I've gone through a bunch of stuff that people don't get to see on social media. And that's the other part of it, right? Like people have to understand like what I choose to show on my social media is very true. It's 100% me, but then I have certain parts of me and certain things obviously going on with my life that I have to go through and deal with that like don't end up being on social media because it's also my private life, you know? And at the end of the day, social media is also much about money and it's much about like also about inspiring people. So for me, it's like for me to show, I want to show parts of me that can make other people better athletes and better people. You know, I don't go on social media to like exploit my entire life, you know. That's just like not like my thing. And I'm getting to be more personable on my IG and stuff like that, and there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up the next month that's going to, you know, help me in doing so. But I think that people need to understand that like Instagram is not reality, and people on Instagram with a bunch of followers and athletes that you look up to all go through the same stuff that you go through, you know. It's the same thing. Like nobody is, you know, immortal like to all the crazy stuff that can happen in life. Like we all go through it. um and so, you know, you just need to look at those people and be like, look, if that person can do it, then I can do it. Anybody can do it. Like I might be where I am today, but I'm still also just like the same girl, that just small town Sweden girl, you know, that grew up there doing that stuff. And you know, it's all about having drive and passion and about understanding that, you know, life isn't going to be perfect, but you just have to find ways to kind of navigate yourself and get back on it, you know.
Hmm. Why do you open Instagram? So what inspires you when you open just to motivate yourself?
So like what do you mean, like why I started Instagram or like why?
No, what inspires you? So I
Oh,
think
what
where do you
inspires me
get
on
your
Instagram?
motivation from? Yeah.
Oh wow, that's like that's a lot. Like I really like good content on Instagram. I'm a very visual creative person. Any reel that you've seen on my Instagram, music and all of that, I've edited all that myself. I'm a very visual person, very creative person. I'm very much involved in like the creation of my social media content. There's nobody behind the scenes, behind the curtain doing it for me. I choose everything by myself. And it's more so about creating emotion. So for me, I like content on Instagram that create emotion, and that's the kind of content that I like. I'm not very much about the like soulless, you know, exterior and superficial stuff on Instagram. Like I don't, and I'm not much for it. But now, if you create something that like gives me some kind of emotion, like of a, like empowerment or you know something, I like that. I like motivational stuff. I like a lot of traveling stuff too because I'm a big traveler. I travel all the time, you know this. I am currently into a lot of content with like ocean stuff. So I love the water. I love everything that has to do with the water. So I've been watching a lot of like shark stuff lately. I don't know why. It's super random. But I'm into a lot of like ocean stuff. But in terms of like motivation, it would definitely be cinematic videos and reels and stuff like that with music. I'm a person that connects very deeply to music and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So for me, it's definitely like cinematic, motivating videos and stuff like that that I like a lot. So that's what I watch for the most part. But I'm honestly not on Instagram a whole lot. Like I
Mhm.
for the even when I'm the most active posting, I would typically like post a couple stories throughout the day, but like I don't sit and like scroll my Instagram.
Mhm.
Like that's not my thing. It never has been, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's good
Yeah.
because you can focus more, right? Uh,
Hmm.
so let us run through a typical day of you because I think that's really interesting. I followed one YouTube video. It was like you were back in Sweden and went to training. It's a really, really old video. But
Yeah.
how does it now look like?
So back in Sweden, that video, people keep asking me about like bringing back my channel and stuff like that, which I'm going to be doing. It's not that I've not wanted to bring back my YouTube. It's just that it's been hard finding the right person to create my content for me. I'm a very hard worker. I show up. I can like in prep, I would film like hours out of my day with like no food and stuff like, but that's what I do because I'm passionate about it, right? But so I am getting back to that because now I finally found somebody that can actually come through on those kind of things. So I'm gonna be going back to YouTube. But um yeah, my day now is very different. Back then, and people keep like reposting parts of this video on it, even on Instagram, these which is I think is super funny because it's very different from now. Back then I would like ride the subway for like an hour and stuff to get to the
Yeah.
gym. It was crazy. Snowstorms and all in Sweden. Now obviously I live in Miami, so I don't have to deal with snowstorms anymore. That's on the positive. Usually, what would happen is I get up early. I usually get up around like 8 right now. It's super sunny here, so sun comes up really early. Between 7:30 8. Normally, I wake up. First thing I do, coffee. And this is also, if you want to add to like the latter question, like things you need to know about me, do not speak to me before I've had my coffee. Like we can't talk. Like there's no conversation. I I I can't do it. I've had coffee in first thing in the morning since I was like 12 years old. I'm never gonna stop. And I'm just not a nice person before I have my coffee. So I just stay quiet. I usually put on my headphones, listen to music, drink my cup of coffee. I like to sit out on my balcony, watch the water, just like collect myself. I don't scroll through Instagram, don't open WhatsApp with clients, anything until I've done that. Then I have my dog, Bolt. He wakes up with me, and after I have my coffee, I usually take him out for a walk by the water. We walk by the bay, we walk around. I bring him back up. I give him food and, feed him and everything. And then I go do my morning cardio. I do my cardio currently during the off season and on season. The reason for why I like it so much in the off season is just because it gives me a good start to my day. It freshens up, clears my brain, allows for me to listen to music. Once again, like me and music is like this, like I can put on a
Mhm.
song and it gives me a certain emotion. So, I usually grind out like 30 minutes right now. Sometimes I'll do some abs after I come up, eat my meal one. When I've had my meal one, I'll go to the pool. I'll open up my WhatsApp. I'll go through my check-ins for the day. When I'm done with that, I'll come back. I'll have some posing sessions with my posing clients because I have my coaching clients and then I also have my posing clients. So usually that's what I'll do. And then if I have some editing, I'll do that as well. If I have to post, I'll do that as well. And then typically I would have my second meal somewhere between there. And then I would normally like give myself like 30 minutes an hour before I train to just chill. I love to take naps. I'm like the nap queen. So for me, the best thing I know in prep and off season, honestly, third meal would be my pre-workout meal. So I would eat my pre-workout meal and I train about like an hour after I've had my pre-workout meal, which is my third meal of the day. So when I've had my pre-workout meal, I typically go to bed for like I'll put on my makeup and like get myself ready and stuff, but I'll like lay in bed and like nap for like a solid at least 30, 40 minutes. And then as soon as I get up, I'll like have my pre-workout and I'll just go train straight after. But the napping after the pre-workout is like life changing. So if you haven't tried that, honestly, it's the best. Um, and then I'll go train. Usually training is about hour and a half, 2 hours. And after that, I'll go back home, have another meal post workout, meal number four. Usually I'll open up my WhatsApp again, answer some questions or something that people have throughout the day. And yeah, then I'll walk my dog again, and then I'll have my last meal, give him his last meal, and then take my supplements and go to bed. Yeah, that's
I think
usually
it's
how it goes.
it's so funny. Like bodybuilders are talking about meal one and two and three. I think for a normal
Yeah,
person, it's
lunch.
ridiculous.
Lunch and dinner and whatnot. Yeah, I think normal people eat like 3 times a day. We eat at least like 5, 6 times a day. I like
Yeah.
5. I don't like 6. It's too much for me. Too
Yeah.
much for my stomach to be able to digest. I usually like 5, but yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live that life. I don't know if I'll ever be able to like not think like that. I think it's like
Yeah.
too deeply rooted in me.
Yeah. Do you think the more meals, because one question of mine was, where do you think that people fuck up with their diet, right? To get into
Yeah.
a certain physique. Do you think that it helps to eat more often? Because I'm asked this a lot and a lot. Yeah, what's your opinion on that? And yeah.
So how much you're able to eat or should eat is dependent on a lot of different factors, right? It's like there's a lot of people that, go that have like a 9 to 5 job and they struggle with getting the meals and because they're not allowed to eat during, their work time and stuff like that. And so I think that's the biggest issue with getting in enough food, honestly. Um, for those people, I'll just say like I'll give an example of what I had to do when I worked the 9 to 5 or when I went to school. I would honestly go sneak a meal into the bathroom. I would finish it in like 5 or 6 minutes, just acting like I was in the bathroom. Like I'm not supposed to do that, but like you have to do what you have to do. So typically there's that, and then I usually it is like a lack of food that really stops people like a lot, and they're like, I don't know how you do it, and it's like, yeah, to in the beginning it's hard. Like if you're used to eating 3 meals and now you have to have five, you're like, how am I gonna do this? But at the same time, it's only hard in the beginning. Like as soon as you start eating more gradually, your metabolism also increases and you're going to end up being hungrier, so definitely eating a lot more. I think people are way too focused on cardio, honestly. And they're like they're either too focused or under focused. Like people that, want to get into shape for a show and stuff, they will come in and bring this like crazy intensity to their training session with the weights, and then they'll go to like the cardio and they're like be on their phone, just like hanging over the Stairmaster. Like anybody who's ever seen me on the Stairmaster in prep knows I'm an absolute psychopath. Like it's like almost hitting like a second training session. Like I just go, 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 and I'm just like drifting, and I'm just like can't breathe. Like, but that's bringing that intensity cardio is so underrated. People just act like, the cardio session after the training is like this like free time where you can just like check on your social media and read the newspaper and just make time go by. It's like, no, if you're doing that, like you're not hitting your cardio the way you're supposed to. Like just from me like not doing that and just stepping up to where it's actually like challenging for you to do cardio, you'll get in shape so much faster by doing that. So much
Yeah.
faster. And
What do you
and people
think
end up having
about
to do so much cardio because of that. Like their coach is like putting them on 30 minutes. What the coach doesn't know is like 30 minutes of you half-assing your cardio. So now you end up having like an hour and a half when you could have had like 45. You get what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that people are then scared to lose their gains when doing cardio too hard?
I think that's only applicable for a certain amount of people. I think for one, most people don't hit cardio hard enough for their bodies to even begin to catabolize muscle. For a second, I think a lot of people start to freak out when they get smaller. It's just because they think that they're a lot bigger than they actually are. Like people always think that they have more muscle than they actually do. And when they start leaning out, they're like, "No, I'm losing muscle." It's like, "No, you're not losing muscle. Like you're losing all the fat around your muscle that used to make your muscles look bigger, and not because they lack fat on it. Now you think your muscles are going away. No, it's just like literally you just weren't that big." Like
Yeah.
it just is what it is. A lot of people like to overestimate how much muscle they have.
Yeah.
Even for me, like, I look big, like I'm a big girl, right? But like when I get on stage, like me in comparison to other figure athletes that are older than me, I'm tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm really
Yeah.
small. So yeah, it's interesting how people do that. They think that they're so, muscular and they're like this it's not like that. People will just have to stop being afraid.
Yeah.
You're not gonna unless you're doing like ridiculous amounts of cardio, you're not gonna lose muscle like that.
Mhm. When it comes to professional bodybuilding, what do you think is the hardest part?
Ooh, I would say like the social thing. It's very it's very lonely at times. I think for me, like as I grew with experience, it wasn't in the beginning, it was very challenging to be around people that ate and stuff like that. Like I would skip out on like family dinners and stuff, to not have to be around that kind of food because it was mentally just too challenging for me. So I stayed away from it. Now, obviously, having done this for a decade, like I don't care. I would sit on peak week with people that eat burgers and stuff, and I don't really care. Because I'm just too focused to really care. It's not worth it. So I think probably the social part though, because at the end of the day, it's like you have a very strict schedule and there's not a lot of time left over. And, your friends are going to go to the beach the whole day. And, you're like, I haven't hung out with anybody in like a month and you really want to go, but you're like, but I have leg day and like that you can't train after because you know that you're not going to perform as well. So like you have to prioritize having a good session over like going and doing stuff like that. And that can at times be challenging, because at the end of prep, like usually how I feel is I'll be like, man, I just miss like feeling like a normal person. It won't even
Mm-hmm.
be like the crazy food. It'll be like the most normal stuff. Like, man, like, how much I appreciate, when I'm driving somewhere far and I'm able to just stop at like a 7-Eleven and just grab a protein bar like a normal person, or whatever, like a normal person. Or like if I want to have an ice cream, when I'm at the beach, I have at least a decision if I want to have it or not, like a normal person, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's more like the feeling of feeling normal,
Freedom, right?
having freedom. Yeah, the freedom
Yeah.
of like I can do this if I want to,
Yeah.
and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that. Mm.
Yeah. And what's for you the easiest part of professional bodybuilding?
The easiest part?
Yeah, the easiest.
Ooh, um, the easiest part would probably be the training, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah, interesting. I think for every person it's different. So I didn't
yeah,
expect that.
yeah, the
So
training.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
reason for why I say it's easy, because trust me, my sessions are
yeah,
not easy, and I think
yeah,
that we know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
The reason for why it's easy is because training for me is the source of like outlet. So if I don't, it's harder for me to not train than to train. You
Yeah,
know, I enjoy the pain from training.
yeah.
I enjoy the challenge. So for me, the training I would say is probably the easiest. I'm not a very good planner. That's why in prep I always cook my meals fresh every day. Something you maybe didn't know. I hate
Mm-hmm.
I hate meal prepping. I hate it a lot. And I also don't like if I make chicken like 3 days ago, it's not gonna taste the same in 3 days. I'm also very picky.
Yeah.
So like I make my meals
Interesting.
fresh for the day every single day. Yeah, I'm like that. I'll make it in the morning usually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Um, what do you think? Because you talk about a lot about champions mentality and pro mentality is
Yeah.
the thing which differentiates people who are like going to this fitness journey, talking about someday I will be a pro and a real pro.
Yeah. Um, I think the one thing people often get wrong is like they think that, you're a pro when you get the pro card and officially maybe yes you are, but what's going to lead you there is acting like one even before you get there, and that's what earns you the pro card is by doing that work already, so pro mentality is all about doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do. It's about like not skipping out on that cardio session of, when you have to be there 4 in the morning because you have something else going on, but still making it happen. It's about doing the hard stuff and like not trying to find the easy way out of everything. Um, I think a lot of people go into bodybuilding. They're like, oh, but I want to be a champion. And then the hard stuff comes in. It's like, oh, you're hungry, you're tired, you're this, you're that. And then people start making excuses. It's like, well, I thought you wanted to be a champion. This is what champions do. It's like, it's easy to be a champion when things are easy. But like, nah, if you are a champion or not, that's like the decisions that you make when it's hard. That's when the champion mentality comes in. It's like, do I want to do this? No. Should I do this? Yes. So are we going to do it? Fuck yeah. So that's kind of where you have to get to. And also just being able to like come through on adversity, because I think it's a lot easier to be motivated mentally and to, do what you're supposed to do when everything goes your way and you're winning shows and whatever, whatever. Everybody comes to a certain point where a show doesn't go the way they want it to, where you don't get the placing that you want to, or when you don't show up with the conditioning that you wanted to because your body like freaked out or did something. It happens to everybody. Bodybuilding is all a lot. Peaking can also be a lot about just the right timing and sometimes luck and sometimes just like trial and error over and over again, and you're not going to get it right every single time. So like, who are you when things don't go your way? Who are you when nobody's watching? Like, when you have to go to the gym and nobody's there, like how hard do you really train when nobody's watching? And when you don't like
Mm-hmm.
have a camera in your
Mm-hmm.
face, like those are the things. Because like people watch videos of me training, and it's funny to me because people that like don't know me or like haven't been around me training, they're like, I get comments sometimes like, oh, it's just for show, it's just for show. And then anybody that's ever gone to the same gym as me or like been around me and seen me how I train when there's literally like five people in the gym at like 11 p.m., they know I bust my ass like regardless. And it has nothing to do with the camera. The camera just happens to be there to capture what I was already doing, because I decided
Yeah.
like, look, maybe somebody can benefit off this. Like maybe I can benefit off this, and just showing what I do, because it seems to be not the normal. Um, and people are inspired by it. But I trained like that for a very, very long time, long before there was even a recording of me training. So I think that, yeah, champion mentality, it's draws back to like Kobe Bryant. It's
Yeah.
yeah, especially just working through adversity is really, really important, and being able to handle, the pressure.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. That's good. That yeah, I think it's really inspiring just to listen to you talking.
yeah,
And yeah, for me it's interesting. Like you studied a degree, everyone could earn a bunch of dollars in a normal job, right? But
yeah,
you decided to go into professional bodybuilding, and we know there's not much money for athletes.
yeah,
And yeah, what is the reason for that? And what kept you like going? Because I think it's really scary to decide on that, going to the States alone with two
yeah,
suitcases.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think to succeed really in this sport at all, you have to be a little bit crazy, like to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to take a risk. Like for me, when I moved here, basically like I'm a very calculating person too. I'm a very risky person too. I like to take chances on things, because you never know like when you're gonna have that opportunity again. And I'd rather, you know, jump on it and fail than like, I hate the what if. Like the what if is the worst to me. So like I can't do that. So for me, when I qualified for my first Olympia, and all these companies start reaching out to me for sponsorships, I was like, oh my God, like this is a whole other world. Like we don't have any sponsorships like in Sweden like that. We barely had NPC back in Sweden back at that time. We didn't actually. There weren't any NPC shows, and there weren't no figure pros from Sweden. So I was like what, what am I gonna do? And I was like looking at my life then, I was like, well, Sam, like all you're really doing is like, you know, you're studying, and you're just working through going to lectures and blah blah blah, and then all you're really living for is like when you get to train. Like that's when you get excited about life. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, maybe I can do something with this. And like just the fact that like, I qualified myself for my first Olympian, I got my pro card on my own. I was like, I have experience to coach other people, and that's what I did. And I just took a chance on myself. And I was like, it's a lot bigger than just the bodybuilding too, because honestly, for me, it's not about like, I don't want to win an Olympia. Like, I don't want to be Miss Olympia. That's not my thing. I wanted to find ways to like, I don't know, help and inspire and empower other people to know that it can be done. And I think that me also being the creative person that I am, I just got really passionate about content making and like the amount of money you can make, I guess, as a content creator, and seeing a kind of future in that, rather than just working a 9 to 5 and like having a secure, stable income. I was like, nah, I'm gonna take a risk. Like if
Mm.
I end up failing, like I can always go back home. I can always go back to school. if I want to. But this opportunity right here and right now is not going to be here again. And so what am I going to do? Stay here and keep studying, or am I going to take a risk and see if this works out and do my absolute best and say that I at least had that experience, And then absolutely. So yeah, I was like, I did my first two YouTube videos from Sweden and I was like getting a lot of views. They have now both of those videos, they have over 100,000 views each, which is why I'm actually really excited to bring back my YouTube because it's gonna be wild.
Me too.
Um, a lot different, but at the same time, it's like getting back like with an old family almost. So it's gonna be cool starting that again. And I just saw the opportunity and how much money and how much experience and like memories you can make and what kind of life you can live just like doing that and being passionate about that. And I love making content. So I was like, what am I gonna do? Like stay in dark Sweden where I'm like struggling to get daylight for a picture, or am I gonna try to like I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna try, And
Mm-hmm.
so for me it was a clear chance, a clear decision. And I just, I was like, well, I have an American passport, a dual citizen. My dad is American. I don't know him because he left when I was very little, but I had two passports my entire life. And I was like, maybe there's a meaning to that, and maybe this is
Mm-hmm.
it. So I ended up, yeah, moving out here and I was in Texas first. I've been moving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've lived in like five different states since I came here, just like trying to figure out where I want to be, because it's a country, but it's also like a continent. There's so many
Yeah.
places, and every single state here is like a different country almost. So, I went to Texas, I lived there, and then I went to Denver in Colorado, I lived there, went to Vegas, lived there. I went to Mexico for 2 months. I was like, I just want to experience Mexico. Was scary, but also a lot of fun. Went there for
Yeah.
2 months. Where else? I went to Virginia, was there for a while. Now I'm in Miami here for a minute. Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just exploring my options and exploring life. It's great working online for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming at times. Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not really into YouTube, but your videos are really motivating because usually I don't like those all those YouTube girl vlogs things.
Yeah,
I watched like a time I watched like Tom Platz videos and kind of this and yours.
yeah, yeah,
That's it. So it's really so everyone should follow your videos, especially your
yeah.
old ones, right? Because I mean, we know where you stand now, but it's good to see what's behind, right?
Yeah, that was when I made those videos when I won my pro card. And now, like in hindsight, it's kind of like sad that I haven't like been filming all my shows and everything. But it's also like it's extremely hard to find people, even like people. There's so many content creators out here, but there are also so many that like promise to like do things for you, and they're just lazy. They're just lazy, and they end up like
Mm.
falling through, and then they owe you the money back, and that's the situation I've been in recently now. So it's kind of sucky. But I found a guy that I think is going to be able to live up to the expectations of us all,
Wow.
in producing my content. So I'm actually really excited, and it's going to be a lot
Yeah,
about my training, but also like lifestyle stuff because
nice.
the risky Sam is a really fun Sam, and I like to do a lot
Yeah.
of weird stuff, like a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It's gonna be a lot of things like and actually getting to know me besides just like, yeah, you know, she's pretty and she has muscle, way beyond the exterior. So I'm actually really excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Hmm.
So, you look really confident, right? And you saying like you're a risk taker and do this and achieve goals, right? But what would you recommend a person like how can one who is not that risky or confident right now to build that up?
I mean, like being risky isn't for everybody. I think what you need to
Yeah.
understand as well is like being an entrepreneur, being somebody like that, you're like in the 1%. And it's very scary to be in the 1%. You have to be very courageous to like have the courage to be in the 1% because it depends all on you, and it's sometimes can be very, very scary. It's like people like having the 9 to 5 because it's like, okay, well, if I work this and this time, which is set already, then I'm gonna make this and this money. It's a safe, stable life, you know. Maybe not necessarily what makes everybody the most happy, but for some people, stability like that is happiness for them, you know. So I think for everybody, it's you know, we can't assume that like living this life is for everybody because it absolutely isn't. But if you are a person that wants to be more risky and take more risks, it has to start with you just like believing in yourself and having a plan like in your head. And also just like not listen to other people. I think I've been great at that. And me like being stubborn and just silencing a lot of people in my head. Like you could tell me things and it would go in here and it go out there. You know, I don't put a lot of value into what other people think and don't think. Like I've proved so many people wrong my entire career that it's honestly it, you know, as long as if you're a person that like I value and I trust you and respect your opinion, then of course I will listen at the very least. But like if you're a person that I don't know or that, you know, you haven't really done much for yourself, then for one, why are you thinking you can talk to me like that? And for two, what makes you think that I'm going to care what you have to say? Like if
Yeah.
somebody has something negative to say, like, and sometimes that could even be your friends, like saying that, like, oh, I don't think that's for you or whatever. You just have to like really decipher like what do you want? Like if you were the last person on this planet and nobody's watching, nobody else alive, what would you choose to do with your day? You know, what would
Mm-hmm.
you choose to do, regardless of what anybody else thinks, says? Well, what would you choose to do? Like, how would you want to live your life? And I always ask myself that, like, if there was a end of the world tomorrow, I was the last person on this planet, how would I train? How would I want to live my life? What would I do on a daily basis? And those are the things that I choose to do and work towards. So I think there's that. I think a lot of people tend to get so caught up in like he says, she said, this person says, and this person's that, and this person says that I'm gonna supposed to train this way, but this person says this. Just people have to realize that nobody has all the answers regardless
Yeah.
of you know how well you do at shows or what your physique looks like or what your life looks like. Everybody has something and everybody's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Nobody has it figured out. Like that's the whole like the biggest thing to I think learn about all this, you know. The
Yeah.
person that goes and wins the Olympian, you watch their videos every day and they look perfect and they have a perfect life and a perfect family and a perfect house and a perfect this and you know all this car that car is like all external stuff. You will never get to see the full picture, and that's what people need to realize. It's okay to be inspired by like all the cool stuff in somebody's life as long as you don't believe that that's actually like their entire life. There's so much behind the scenes, you know, that you never know about anybody, and nobody has it figured out. We're all like big children just trying to like figure shit out, you know. And just being like graceful with yourself also, you know,
Mm.
allowing for yourself to make mistakes and saying that that's okay, you know. I'm going to take a risk at this and it might go to shit, but you know, it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to make the wrong decision and it's okay to change your mind and it's okay, you know?
Yeah. What are
Hmm.
you the most proud of in your life? Like, is there one or two things which comes to your mind where you think that yeah, that's me?
I think I'm very proud of my resilience. I've had a lot of like difficult times in my life. Struggled with a lot of things, back and forth like anyone else, but I'm very proud of my capability to bounce back. My bounce backs are always the best.
Yeah.
Very, very, very proud of like the way that I handle situations like that when things don't go my way. I'm very proud of the person that I am.
Yeah.
And I'm also very proud of the person that I am like outside of the sport. Like I'm very proud of, you know, my integrity and my morals and my character. I like the way that I treat people. I like the way that I treat my fans. I like the way that I talk to people and I speak to people. Um, I really like the person that I am, you know. And it took me a long time to
Mm-hmm.
really realize that not all people are like that, you know. I think I took it for granted for a long time. But like, oh, but you know, every competitor, you know, meets their fans and they're cool, and you know, everybody takes their time to like listen to somebody, and everybody's kind, and everybody's this. And the further I came into, you know, this world, this fitness world, and whatever, and the more I realized, like, look, Sam, you're actually really special. You
Mm.
know, actually, not everybody has the same integrity as you. Not everybody has the same morals, values as you know. And I don't think that I really realized like how big of a deal that was and how much self-control and just character that I have. And I think it's those are two qualities that like have contributed probably more to my career than I understood for a very long time. Just the way that, that I interact with people because anybody that's like met me at Expo or came up to me at a gym, they all know how I am with anybody that comes up and talks to me about like my content or about anything like that. I always take my time for everybody and it comes out like it comes from a very like genuine place, you know, of feeling like,
Mhm.
we all sit at the same table, It's like I'm not above you because I'm this and you're starting out or whatever. Like, if I have time, I will take my time to listen to your story. If there's anything I can do to make somebody else's, journey a little bit easier or better, then I will do that. It's just a person that I am. And I stand very firmly behind my beliefs and my morals and the things that, I believe in. And that's something that, has been developed over time and, something that my mom integrated in me from a very young age. I've always been very like just and very honest and very just a very truthful and honest person, and those are qualities that definitely have contributed to my career as well and will probably continue to do so.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for this answer. It's yeah, it's really so I think to to come back to what you're saying is like just be more yourself, right? This is what
Hmm.
comes through all the lines. And I think that's what we maybe forget if we have like role models and things which inspire us just to come back to ourselves because there's a reason why we have like this head, this brain, these arms, right? And not
Right.
anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to be very in tune with yourself, like spiritually. Like for me, I've always been a very spiritual person as well, very like aware, like almost hyper aware sometimes, Um, and I really enjoy my like alone time to just zone out from, you know, everything else. I take my time to just be Sam too. That's the thing. I think that's a major key as well. It's like people, and that's what I do different these days than when I started out because in the beginning I was very obsessed. I was like athlete Sam 24/7. And I think that gets to be very tiring and it also ends up going out over your training sessions actually. So for me, it's really important to like when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I feel like I need a minute, to just kind of regroup myself, to take time to really like, oh yeah, right. I used to love to draw. And like I'll order like a block and pencils and I'll like start
Mhm.
on a drawing or something. And just like kind of reconnecting and drawing back to like who are you outside of your bodybuilding? Like what do you enjoy outside of your bodybuilding? Because usually going back to that, even if it's just for like 30 minutes in prep especially, it just draws me back to like feeling like me and like forgetting that like I have all this pressure on myself. It's like I enjoy drawing or like I I am gonna start like right now I'm gonna start, having a personal trainer for kickboxing again because I love martial arts, and stuff like that. Just finding other forms of like I like to do this. And drawing for me
Mhm.
in prep, when I discovered the drawing in prep, like the lighting candles, sitting, playing music for like an hour, just an hour before I went to bed, like have my last meal, just in complete like harmony and just like coloring and stuff like that. It was like my cortisol just went,
Wow, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
That's amazing.
And some
Yeah,
people do yoga and meditation and stuff like that. I just can't because my brain just goes like, it's
yeah,
crazy. My brain is so fast all the time.
yeah.
I think I probably have like undiagnosed ADHD if I'm gonna be honest. But the drawing for me is like when I get something that it's very like intricate, like very detailed, I have a really like easy time focusing on that. So I really like drawing, and for that reason, when I found that in prep and found like these kind of hacks to kind of like collect myself, I started getting drier and I started like losing fat faster because people don't realize like how much that contributes. Like
Yeah,
your mind and prep rules everything. So if you can
yeah,
find ways to calm your nervous system down from like all the hard training and everything going through your brain and the pressure, even if it's just like a simple thing like drawing for me, for example, helps your prep so much.
Yeah,
Believe me.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I have one final question,
Mhm.
the least deep of this talk. Your favorite cheat meal, Sam. I'm really excited about
Oh,
that.
this is so hard because it's honestly
Yeah,
changed since moving to Miami. I live in Miami, so now being here, there's a lot of like Hispanic people, so people from like different Southern America, Latin countries. Um, Currently, I would say it's probably, I mean, I really like Hispanic foods. Usually what I would go to is called El Churrasco, and it's right around the corner. And basically like
yeah,
you get like a board, and it's like grilled chicken, and it's grilled steak, and it's this and this and that. And then you have like fried yuca, you can have plantains, you can have tostones, which is like it's the plantain chip that like has some like steak on it, and usually some like vegetables and stuff like that on it. And yeah, it's super good. If I'm not eating that, then I'm a big Italian food fan. Like I love Italian food, so pasta, love pasta. I love pizza. Pizza in Miami is the bomb. Pepperoni pizza is, if I'm usually I'm not allowed to get a pizza for a cheap meal because it's a lot. But
yeah.
if I got to choose of like freely out of everything, it would probably be pepperoni pizza with like hot honey. Yeah,
With
it's my
honey.
favorite.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. So like
It's
spicy
good.
honey, that's a thing here. So like
Wow.
you have honey, and then I think they infuse it with like chili or something, and you just like drizzle it over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would
Sounds
pepperoni
good.
pizza.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
if you haven't tried
Three
it, try
K
it.
calories.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's like a whole day worth of intake, or like a day and a half at least. But it's really, really good. And if I had to choose anything, then it would be that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, Sam, you were so generous with your time. So I
Thank you
really,
so much.
I'm really, yeah, it's perfect. The interview, I will re-listen it. Also took notes because
Love that.
I love this to just emphasize on it and reflect on it. So thank you so much, and I will put
Thank
in all
you.
your